which we are delivering today in association with Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce. And we'll be discussing developing a mindset for the new norm. We're joined today by Helen Cuddy, who's partner to Keele University Conferencing and Events, Assim Ishaque, founder of the Enterprise Trust, and today from Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce as representative and also co-owner of Clip and Climb Stoke, Edward Bassett. The panel work across multiple sectors and they're going to share their insights and experiences. And together we hope to be able to explore perspectives on opportunities and possibilities in these extraordinary times and focus on business change, on innovation and on success. There are two ways for you to get involved today. The first is to submit a question on the right-hand side of the screen, and Helen's going to be monitoring the chat there and bringing stuff in as we go. The second is to submit an anonymous question via email by scrolling to the bottom of the screen and entering your question there. And that email will come through to myself and Helen as hosts, and that will be confidential, so we won't be revealing who you are. As I say, Helen's going to be watching the web chat, and you'll all be able to see that, and we'll be feeding everything into discussions as we go. When we finish today, the conversation will continue online, and we'll be on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and we'll be using the hashtag KeeleTalksBusiness. And in terms of instructions, I've been asked to say a little bit about what an entrepreneur in residence does. So in brief, there were three of us working out of the Smart Innovation Hub at Keele, and we all co-develop and co-deliver the programme content for our Innovation Leadership Programme. We also get to contribute our own insights into the development of materials, but also into helping coaching business leaders that are on the programme. And that's the great bit, because we get to see all the great things that are going on in the businesses that are engaged with us. And while we're not doing that, we're all busy running our own businesses. So I'll now ask Helen and Assim and Edward to introduce themselves and to give a brief overview. So Helen, could you perhaps give us could you lead us off?
Indeed. Good morning, everyone. My name's Helen Cuddy. I have my own business called Yellow Dog Consultancy. And fortunately, the month before lockdown, I've entered into a contract with Keele University Conferencing and Events, and I'm partnering with them, guiding them and helping them during this very difficult period in my industry, which is the meetings and events industry on a corporate level. So that's who I am, and looking forward to this webinar.
Thank you, Helen. And Assim?
Good morning, delighted to be here. I make no apologies for dressing a little bit smart. I haven't worn these clothes for a long time, and I hope you like the red tie. I am an entrepreneur. I have been for about 18 years, and I'm an inventor, and I'm going to be joined by my daughter. Say hello, who always likes to see what I'm doing. I'm an entrepreneur, and I've had lots of failures along the way. So I've used my failures to set up a series of tools that have kind of guiding principles I now work around. And I teach entrepreneurs how not to fail. So I guess I'm an expert in crisis, and I've been working with the European Government Institute of Environment, Innovation and Technology, deliver some masterclasses for them. I used to work for Birmingham City University to help commercialize research there. And now I'm a mentor with a number of organizations, and work with entrepreneurs going through challenging times, as well as those seeking to take their projects to the next level. So delighted to be here. I hope you all get some value out of this, and please feel free to ask me any challenging questions and anything that you might be going through right now, which is a bit difficult. I'm more than happy to answer those questions.
Thanks, Assim. And Edward.
Hi everyone. So my name's Ed Bassett. I'm born in Tiddenser. Went to the Newcastle High School. Staffordshire lad, partial to an oatcake. I worked in the oil and gas sector for 20 years in a number of jobs, mainly in business development and mergers and acquisitions. Worked around the world for some big energy companies. Was recently in Singapore, and I became self-employed about 4 years ago and set up my own advisory business. I decided to invest with my brother in Clip and Climb Stoke, which is a family climbing centre in Stone. We've been open for about 2 years and have had around 60,000 climbers in that time. I also am a founder and owner of an Airbnb type platform which rents out motorhomes and camper vans, and that's called Camp2. So that's what I'm doing business wise. I'm based down in London. I also coach, mentor and advise, and I'm representing the Chambers of Commerce today as a member. And the Chambers, I can talk later on about that. We have a lot of webinars and toolkits that people can tap into in terms of, you know, getting some advice on marketing, on business support, HSE, and a lot of decent resource there if you are a member of the chamber. So we can leave some details. I would definitely recommend it because it's an excellent tool and forum for networking. And as we'll talk about in this session, I think, you know, business growth and networking clients really is how you can pivot your mindset to move forward in these times.
Okay, thanks, Edward. So straight on to the first question, everybody. And Ed, I'll come to you first on this one. Question is, have you changed your mindset in this current situation, that's you yourself, or how would you suggest others in business might think differently?
Good question. I've certainly know how to cook vegan quiche now, which I didn't do 12 weeks ago. So that's one light heart. That's one thing I can do. I mean, mindset to me, for the last 5 or 6 years, since I became self-employed, I've been exploring the concept of what that means. And I think ultimately, in a business context, business for me is very much in parallel with your own personal dynamics. So mindset, you know, you can't just have a business mindset, you need a life mindset, and that comes very much from the things that most of us know. So healthy living, of course, the foundations of having a good business career and a satisfactory personal life, a lot of it comes from the health and well-being aspects to it. So I think in terms of business, I would parallel that. I think a lot of it is about mindset of self-care. It's about talking to a team, and particularly in these times, it's about asking for help. It's about accepting failure. It's about realizing that you're not indispensable to a degree. And it's similar things that you would do in terms of your own personal life. I think we all talk about resilience a lot. And to me, that kind of means obviously the ability to get up again. But it means asking for help. It means asking for support. And I think it's having that mindset, you know, that nothing is in business is forever. And whilst there may be some business disappointments in this current time, you've got to keep that long-term vision of why you set your business up, and that's got to really relate to your personal ambitions and personal core values. So I think that to me, personal life, personal values have to be in parallel to your business activities, and that very much explains how people lead and how people look after their team and look after their customers with care and consideration.
You mentioned teams a couple of times there, and there's a question that's come in via email where there's a business leader concerned that there might be a sort of implicit assumption there that we all know what the new normal is, but they're looking to perhaps their team to influence what their new normal will be. I thought that was a really interesting observation that came in via email as we were speaking, and reflects something else that came in beforehand. Do you want to refer back to that, Ed, or shall we?
Yeah, very quickly. I mean, certainly in our two businesses, we've got 50 staff in Holland and 5 in London in the Camp2 business. We've employed 25 people in Stone on some full-time staff. And what we're trying to do is inform the staff as to what we think is going on. We know we don't have all the answers. I think as any leader, managing director, you've got to just be very, very honest. You've got to be candid. You've got to talk from the heart. And you've got to tell people that you aren't fully aware of the dynamics of the current situation. And that invariably may lead to job losses. In terms of teams, I mean, I think that we have to try and engage employees. They're all suffering from various degrees of anxiety, of worrying about their jobs. And I think people thrive on information. It's better to over-communicate, write to them, speak to them, Zoom them, and tell them what you know and what you don't know. There is no point hoodwinking people in this current situation. I think it will help you as a leader to express the fact you do not know everything and to be very, very honest. in all senses of this.
Thanks for adding there, Ed. Assim, anything to sort of add again there to that sort of mindset? What have you done differently? What are you looking to do?
Yeah, I think Ed makes some really, really good points there. And I think for me, when this all happened, I lost all my work. Most of my work is in-person discussions and meetings and presentation and consultations. And I run a toy company as well. So everything stopped. But you know what? I realized that it's only an issue if I make it an issue. It's only a problem if I let it be a problem. That I am the sum of many stoppages and failures and blockages. But the job of an entrepreneur is to know it's a yes. So I had to figure out how to get through this. I think one of the interesting points that I really like that Ed made was in, your own mindset. And I think where I've been working with lots of entrepreneurs over these past few months, and I think those that have struggled the most are the ones that were doing something for the money, or they were doing it because they had a particular focus which wasn't themselves, and what they were doing was not in alignment with their own self, and they didn't find comfort in the way they were working, in the way they were contracting, and the way they were going forward. And I think the most important thing is to kind of go back to who you are and why you're and what your bigger purpose in life is. And you've got to, if that means you have to make some changes because, you don't want to work 12 hours a day and not see your family, or, you're fed up with the way that the organization is treating you or the people that you're working with. I think some people will look at this as a time to really reflect upon themselves and will make great decisions from it. And I think it's decision-making time. Life is a two ways, what people do to you, but also what you do to it as well. So for me, I've really gone back to why I'm here. And the first thing I did is I got back onto my podcast, and I made a podcast with some other people I work with to talk about some of the challenges. And since then, I've been trying to help and support other entrepreneurs rather than seek to sell or, make money. Because I know, it's a challenging time. I receive one email almost every day from a shirt company trying to sell me shirts. And I tell you, one thing I'm not short of is shirts. One thing I'm not going to be buying now is shirts. And out of 100 emails, I've seen 2 where they reflect upon what's going on now, where they reflect on how the world has changed and how our lives have been adjusted. And I think we have to kind of understand how this has affected us and allow yourself to be open about that. You really need to focus on why you're here. Because if you focus on why you're here, that will really help you make better steps forward.
Helen, I'm mindful that your industry, Assim was talking about losing all his work sort of immediately that this kicked off. I'm mindful that your industry is essentially shut down. Anyway, can't move at the moment. So what have you done yourself on that sort of mindset thing? And what have you seen in others that you know in your industry? Because that, again, is a perspective of something that you can't climb out of it yet. So what are you doing right now?
Our industry in meetings and events is actually still in lockdown. So as many businesses are starting to come out and restrictions are being lifted, we are still in lockdown. So events are still cancelled right through at the moment till the end of July, generally, certainly for Keele and many other hotels and venues across the country. And the other part of it, naturally, is that even when they're open, public confidence is something that is going to restrict numbers coming anyway. So mindset wise, I think when this all initially started and we were literally cancelling and sending refunds out from deposits, and money cash flow wise has just walked back out the door, we had to get into the mindset of how we're going to recoup that money for the future. How are we going to retain as well the customers we already have in a world that can't meet necessarily face to face at the moment? So it's a bit of a flight or fight situation, and as an industry, we're fighting. We're changing our mindset on a daily basis, offering hybrid events, blended events, where face-to-face interaction isn't always going to be the answer while social distancing is on, but you can actually have people networking together. And I know one of the questions that's come in is about networking. How are we going to network in this new norm? Well, it's a changing beast at the moment, the new norm, because it depends what the government is saying about social distancing. Our industry is actually fighting for a 1 metre rule instead of a 2 metre rule at the moment. We're lobbying government, which is going to help us tremendously in actually regaining events back. But mindset-wise, I think it really is a time, which is something Asim's just touched on. We're taking this time to rethink, review, reevaluate what our business is actually going to look like as the new norm, and to reflect who our customers are going to be, and actually what kind of confidence they're going to have to come to a venue, to actually do these events, to actually meet face to face. So we're putting in amazing, innovative technology that actually we're doing virtual venues where people can meet and interact in one space and still be involved in a conference, let's say, for example. So, yeah, mindset-wise, we're having to rethink everything, even down to catering, cleaning, visible cleaning, huge industry for the future. So I think it's one of the things that we've had to look at everything and change everything. So our mindset is constantly not only thinking about our own teams and staff, who we want to bring back at a venue level, but do we need to be thinking about new opportunity within the technical side? Do we need more technicians? Do we need people with that experience in that virtual world? So do we actually start thinking that our employees as we see them now, do we need to be considering how we enhance that? So our industry is having a complete change. An absolute complete change. And that mindset's actually about challenge, but also makes it very exciting. Yeah. So that's where we are, yeah.
Assim, you mentioned receiving emails that didn't really relate to you and didn't really speak to the current situation. There was a great article relatively recently in Forbes by a lady called Blake Morgan, and she observed that it used to be that customer experience was really the only way to differentiate yourself. But now, and you've shone a spotlight on it, the challenge isn't just to stand out, because clearly those emails were not standing out for you. It isn't just to stand out, but it's to pivot and to innovate and transform. So in terms of pivoting, those are those buzzwords now, but in terms of that one, which is pivoting, what have you done differently? What have you done change-wise over the last few months?
Well, the first thing I did was I stopped focusing on the difficulties that I was in. Stopped focusing on the fact that everything had stopped. I realized that this was my moment to be of use to my community of entrepreneurs, because I've been through so much difficult situations, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna actually be useful. So I was doing these podcasts about entrepreneurship, and they were largely me talking about my thoughts. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to be of use. I'm going to talk about this, because there was stuff about the NHS, which is fantastic, and they are without doubt the most capable. They are our superstars of the pandemic, and lots of other industries. But I thought entrepreneurs, startups, we're not really getting any attention and support. And thankfully, that's all changed. So I thought I'd start and talk about the challenges that we're going through and talk to people who could offer some ideas. And really interestingly, that actually got some attention on me, and I ended up getting a really nice piece of work with the European Union to actually help more entrepreneurs. And I think, we use this word called pivot, and I want to give you an analogy, which I think is better than a pivot. And I want to give you the analogy of a New York deli sandwich, or you can call it a Stoke sandwich if you like. But you imagine in a deli, they've got all these wonderful ingredients to make a sandwich for you. They don't tell you to have a particular sandwich. They don't tell you it's that sandwich you've got to have. They don't tell you what bread, what the contents are, what the filling. They don't They've got some ready-made sandwiches. And they've got a menu of sandwiches you can have. But what they do, they're really, really clever. They say, you tell us what you want and we'll make it for you. And that's really important. If you just go back a moment, in your own business environment, there are lots of skills and capabilities and services and products that you put together every day, every time you service a customer. And right now, not every customer can buy all of those services and products in that mix. And I think what we've got to do is think like the sandwich maker. And I think, what they do is they ask the customer. And I think if we ask the customer what they want out of what we've got, you might end up serving them something that you didn't think was of much value to you, but is a huge amount of value to them. And therefore, you might actually create brand new products. And I'm an entrepreneurial speaker is one of the things I do. I've become a virtual speaker. I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I had the capability to do this, but I do, and I am. I'm a coach, but I thought being a coach was having to sit there with somebody and support them, but it's not. I've been coaching people all over the world, and I can do this from here. And I think we are all capable of offering value to our community, but it's not going to be in the form that we used to. And Helen talked about the events industry. And I tell you what, last year, would I have gone to a virtual event? No, probably not. I've been to a few and they weren't that interesting or exciting. But now virtual events are actually really exciting. I was at an event yesterday. It was run by a university in Finland. And I was talking to people all over the world. And it was such fun. It was so engaging. I've made loads of new contacts. We're having conversations. I think the things that will come out of this, the new opportunities and the new industries that you mentioned, Helen, I'm looking forward to what we are being forced to do, to create, to innovate, and what will come out of that.
Ed, you're involved in a number of different businesses at the moment, and obviously you're a coach as well. Have you got anything again in the way that what you've done differently since all this started?
Well, just take. I mean, Assim makes a very good point about value add. I mean, just taking a step back. I mean, the audience that are watching this, or maybe not watching this, are going to be single trade, self-employed, to bigger companies, either managers, directors, HR, what have you. So, every business is different. We all know that. And I look at this period now as the last 3 months. Obviously, it's a personally difficult time for different reasons. But the government has been incredible in terms of supporting business. The main thing to do is to get your finances in a period of survival, so you can actually just be confident that the lights are not going off. We've got to be honest and pragmatic about that. We've got to be adaptable to every day and every week as the markets come back. And actually, there is a reason to be positive, because the markets are reopening. So if people have survived the last 3 months, and most people, let's be candid, have had the opportunity to do that. I accept that some people maybe haven't, but most people will have survived the last 3 months. And we've been using that time. Both of our businesses have been closed, but we've been using that time to redecorate. We've been training staff. We've been developing our website. I've been talking, like Asim's been saying, I interviewed about 20 people. I put something on LinkedIn, said, does anyone want to talk? And I had 20 people who came forward I had an hour interview. I'm still coaching some of those people just on the back. And I'm not coaching them. I'm just taking the steps with them to try and find solutions if they're unemployed. I'm trying to give them a different way of thinking about things. And in terms of whatever you're doing, whether you're employed or whether you're running a company or a sole trader, you've got to talk to people all the time. I mean, whether the business is the new normal, the old normal, the new normal, that could be normal, business is about people. It's about trust. It's about connections. And if you make more of them, you'll get more business. And ultimately, you'll get new products. And therefore, having these kind of things, attending webinars, there's so much free information. There's so many things to net. And I'm sure Helen's got a lot of tools she can share in terms of places that people can meet. It's a great time. Well, customers are not coming through the door. To develop you need to be online. You need to be talking to people via your website. You need to be on Google Ads. You need to be out there with a social media channel. Whatever business you're in, you need to be talking to people online. So we've spent time thinking about that, and talking to customers. Keep your cost base under control. Maximize the government loan systems. The bounce back, furloughing. I appreciate there's still a few people waiting for help. But it really is. There's no excuse for not talking to people. And that will lead you into so many different opportunities. And you may, in a year's time, be doing something totally different. Yeah. But you won't know until you talk.
And Helen, you said how busy you were, even though the industry that you're in is still in lockdown. And Ed mentioned there the sort of tech changes, the digital transformation, and both Ed and Assim mentioned that sort of customer focus, if you like, that staying close to customers and understanding your data. So to add to that, from your perspective of that industry that is, again, likely to be in lockdown perhaps a little bit longer than what we can see at the moment. We haven't got visibility on it yet, have we? What else are you doing in terms of that pivot word and those activities?
I think Ed has just hit the nail on the head, actually, and it's about staying in touch with your customers. And we actually are in the middle of trying to get together a survey in our marketing, so that goes out to all of our customers that we've had contact with, that we've engaged with, just to understand what they see as the future for their events. And I think working with them on bespoke scenarios is so important. This new norm that we keep talking about is a new norm for now. This is a moment in time. I think hopefully this pandemic will eventually ease, and maybe at some point we can eradicate it. Will we go back to what we consider to be the normal previously? Probably not at that point. I think we will continue to have bespoke arrangements for individual customers, but it is very much about staying in touch with your customers and actually understanding what their mindset is, and not just your customers, as in, from my point of view, the organisers. But when we're talking about meeting events specifically, what about the delegates? What about the people, the attendees that want to come? How many of them are going to want to travel? How many of them are going to stay overnight for accommodation? These are all things that we're having to piece by piece put together and give customers options, flexibility, understanding what they need, understanding what their delegates and attendees need, and what their objectives are around why they need to meet, why they need to network, what kind of messaging is it that they need to impart on their audience. So we're having to dissect this piece by piece and allow our customers to actually feed into us what they want from us. So it's really important, the staying in touch. And the messaging, something that Assim was just talking about, hundreds of emails, but only 2 that have actually resonated with him. I think we go out so often and have done for many years in marketing in a blanket effect. There needs to be more content. There needs to be more engagement now. If we're turning into much more of a virtual world with our customers, we need to make sure that the content that we're actually pushing out there in our messaging is relevant, is important, and is something that they want to actually come back and engage with. So blanket emails, blanketing effect, I don't think is going to work in this scenario at the moment. So I think you've just got to be creative, very much more creative with what we're doing.
I'm going to come back to a second, monitoring the chat, but I think two things that are jumping out for me there is, and I'm getting it as feedback from companies that are on our innovation leadership program or have just finished the last cohort just finished, and I'm talking to the next cohort that's starting at the end of August. They are making a conscious effort to better understand their customers and get really, really close to them as part of their future success. But also they are in that tactical space at the moment where they're having to be reactive to the things that are happening, like shops that are opening up on Monday, I think it is, isn't it? I don't think there's going to be complete confidence there that when they open up that the customers aren't going to stay at home online. So it's that online offer that might be the key thing to profitability, because their understanding of their customers' mindsets at the moment, there might be a gap in it because the customers have literally been shopping online. Are they now going to come to the shops? I think that perhaps is an open question, and it might link to people's mindsets and their degree of comfort to come to a shop, their perspective on safety, if you like, to come to a shop. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I think the other thing that is coming to the fore there is trust. If you're bombarding people with emails and it doesn't really speak to them, that doesn't speak well to trust. That doesn't speak well to that relationship that you might want to have with that person that's offering that service or that product. If you just part of a mail out that's going to go out every 5 minutes or whatever it is, if they don't know their customers, and it's very clear to you as a potential customer that they don't know you, they're not going to sell a sim, a tie, I don't think, or a suit or a shirt. And thanks for being on brand today, Assim, by the way. I appreciate that. So to come back to you from that chat, is there anything in the chat there that's sort of to come in from what we've said so far?
Not necessarily about customers, but certainly one thing that I think I'd like to bring in at this point is regarding how our workforce is feeling mindset-wise. In general, across the board in most industries, we've had so many people working for 11, 12 weeks at home, many furloughed, and we've had somebody's raised a point regarding, I'll just actually read the part. Many of their staff have lost confidence or interest in coming into work, feeling they can work from home just as well without considering the wider team issues of supervision, management, etc., that are really not being acknowledged. Yeah. I think it's a very, very interesting point.
Where do you think that might lead us? Are you saying there that, is there a realisation that in working from home, people can be trusted more just to get on with things and they don't necessarily need the level of supervision that they've had in the past? Is that what you're picking up there?
I think from my point of view, I'm picking up from that I don't think virtual will ever replace face-to-face interaction. I think teams across the board in work environments, and this is an opinion that I hold, and I know that many within my industry hold this opinion, is that face-to-face and human interaction, if we lose that, I think we're lost. There was also another point that's been raised regarding networking. How do you feel that young entrepreneurs are going to be able to network and get their face out there on virtual platforms?
Helen, can I add that one in particular?
Assim wants to come in on that. Yeah, Assim?
That one in particular is a real bugbear of mine, because I think, I have 4 children, and one of them's just started university, one's about to, and one's at school, one's as you've seen, a nursery a lady. You know what? Young people are so focused on their mobile phones, and it's a great time to be an expert on being social using the media. It's a fantastic time. But I tell you what, this is the time that you have to start building relationships, and real, meaningful relationships. And I've just connected with Richard Dawson, who's one of the participants today. So I'm delighted to meet you, Richard. And you know what? It's about actually being engaged and interested on these platforms. But on the basis that hopefully one day you're actually going to meet. And I think a lot of you really young people didn't have the confidence and don't have the skill set to engage in person way. And I think they are really going to miss it, and they are really missing it. And I hope that we can use this time to actually build some social skills, real social skills, so that when we meet people, we can actually build rapport, build trust, build a relationship, build a professional connection with them, and actually be of use to each other and be a support to each other. And I have lots of people connecting with me, wanted to sell me stuff. And you know what? Don't try and sell me stuff online in the first meeting. You know, get to know me, get to understand who I am, do some research about me. You know, and I think, you know, Helen, I am desperately missing real networking events. God, you're so true, and I'm looking forward to coming to some of the events you arrange. But now's the time to actually get good at some of those networking skills, which are completely appropriate for these social networks as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. And I think if you go onto LinkedIn, if you're in business, get onto LinkedIn and reach out to people, ask for help, ask for a meeting, have a chat, and just explore these kind of dynamics. And totally echo what people are saying. We're social creatures, so we will have to get out again and network. And people want to go into shops because they like the social elements to it. So we just need to be positive and have that. Things are going to be difficult for a time, and who knows when the vaccine's coming. But I know I'm desperate to go and walk down a high street and get a coffee and go into a shop. And so we need to just keep that mindset there and be adaptable. But as we've all said, I think networking is absolutely crucial. And as a leader, you need to be spending a quarter of your time, half of your time developing these relationships, and you need to be getting your team to do the work that they're employed to do. And we're all grown-ups. If people want to work at home, let them work at home. You know, let's not go back to the old normal. You know, let's think about how we manage our businesses and let people know what they're required to do, but let them get on and do it. You know, we don't need micromanagers anymore. People have worked for 12 weeks at home, whether they've been furloughed or not. People are still trying to be productive. So I think as a leader, if you're working on your own, I do sympathize. It's incredibly difficult. Ask for some help, speak to coaches, mentors, reach out to people on LinkedIn. If you're in a bigger organization, really think hard about how you're operating as a team, how you're talking up, talking down, and work on value. I used to get so fed up having meetings at work. I can't stand them. I mean, you know, just think about what you're all there for. What's the purpose of the business? And all sounds very soundbitey, but it does boil down to relationships. That's what business is. So work on them. Ask for your team to get involved in the solutions. Tell them where you're not feeling that you've got an answer. And I think life, like the stress reduces on that basis of open communication within reason. Obviously, you've got to make decisions and lead, but it's becoming a far more collaborative business culture, and I think we were heading that way anyway. And ultimately, it's down to us all. You know, no one knows what the future is. You don't know in life what the future is. You just got to get on with it. You know, the British are so resilient and so positive and so entrepreneurial that we just need to have confidence that there's going to be a lot of opportunities, and every member of staff needs to just be positive, because we can all create innovation. Every member of staff, from the guy in the cafe to the guys on reception to whatever, everyone's got an input into that business. And I think it sounds a bit romantic, but leaders need to harness that now more than ever. I think talk to people. Yeah.
Do you want to come in on and come back on any of that?
Yes, please. Thank you, David. I completely agree with everything that Sim and Ed have said there. And I think one of the things that is certainly coming through on chat as well, and some of the questions we've been getting through regarding this, is that many teams, you've got a number of people who have thoroughly enjoyed and been extremely productive during their home working time. And there are others that really have not enjoyed being at home struggle with motivation, struggle with possibly their mental resilience through this. And I think absolutely what Ed has said about, being collaborative with your teams and with your employees. I think the collaboration extends even further than that. You need to really be playing to your team's strengths. If they're very productive from home, great. But if others need supervision, there does need to be the ability to actually still work in an office environment where people thrive on that sociability of an office environment as well. So I think the blended view of what the office environment looks like is something that many of us are looking at now. That blended scenario where there's the opportunity to work from home, but also to have those regular on-site in the office meetings where people can actually bounce ideas off each other. So I think it's very important that we bear in mind that virtual or tech is not always going to be exactly, going to continue to just be virtual as we are now. I think it's very important we go back to that interaction, engagement and physical face-to-face. And I think many people that are working, that are furloughed at the moment, are chomping at the bit to be back in the office environment.
I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to try and get 2 substantive questions in. So one's going to be around business failure, and Assim, I'll be coming to you on that. And with your permission, in terms of blending questions that have come in by the email, I'd like to return to the subject of climate change and climate and that mix of working from home and people not necessarily needing those big headquarters anymore. So I'll try and get back to that. But sort of first and foremost there, Assim, it perhaps would be fair to say that in right here, right now, the only certainty is uncertainty. And there will be businesses in Staffordshire and nationally and internationally that are not going to survive. Everybody, I think, acknowledges that. But what would you say to businesses about what might feel a bit taboo as a word? What would you say to businesses about business failure? And Ed, I'll come to you after Assim on this, if that's okay.
I'm going to use this bottle of water as an analogy, and if you call your business the water inside the bottle, that water has got a greater purpose than what it was meant for. And I think if you can take a bit of water out of there, it will carry on. But if you take it all out, it's all gone, but it's gone somewhere else. So a bad analogy, I know, but my point is, even though a business in its current form may not continue in the future, it does not mean that there isn't value in what's in there for the future. And I think a really capable, intelligent, creative look at what you've got will simply mean that you just change direction and you just refocus on another area where your capabilities can be used. I mean, Helen's business could have been killed off completely, but no, Helen, you didn't give up. You carried on going. You found this whole new opportunity that the events industry has taken up. For me, I coach entrepreneurs. I'm an environmental technology inventor myself, and things have stopped. But will I let them stop? No, because I am more than one project. I'm not a one-trick pony. I am more than that, and I think if you're in a business environment where you don't feel you're going to continue as you are, take a good hard look at what you have got, and think of that sandwich. Take it apart and look at what the ingredients are in that sandwich, and see if you can make something else out of them that will be of use to somewhere else. Find people who've got problems that you can help with, that you can support. And I think if you can find problems that the world is currently going through that you can solve with some of what you've got, then you haven't failed your business, and you will be a better business because of it. If you can get through COVID, then you're going to be in a much stronger position going forward.
Can you come in on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, failure. I've had businesses that have failed. I've worked for billion-dollar companies in the FTSE that have failed in different respects. I worked for Enron. Some people might remember that. So it's not about failure. It's about, all this, again, it's the ability to understand why you're doing this in the first place. If you're an employee, fine. If you're working for yourself, fine. Everything is just progressing you one day at a time to something else, but it's got to be based on some value. You've got to be building a business that you care about. And let's be quite frank. We're talking about business here. It's not life. You've got to get it into perspective. Life can still be wonderful, even though your business has gone down the toilet, and you just get up and you start again. The main risk, of course, is people are worried about financial security. People have as much concern of being an employee as they do being an employer. You can't get out of this, to coin the phrase, alive. Everyone's got risks of where the money's coming from, and being an employee versus being self-employed is a different mindset to start with. So, failure, as we all know, it's taking you to somewhere else to learn some lessons. But you've got to get back into business, and even to get a job, you've got to want to have that job, and you've got to change that mindset of what kind of job you can best get. Steve Jobs was fired from his own business. Richard Branson's had 2 or 3 businesses gone down the pan, albeit his wealth is protected. There's many examples currently of people that are failing, inverted commas, and I don't think Richard Branson and Steve Jobs, rest in peace, are sitting there, thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow. They'll be thinking about where the opportunities are. Well, Steve Jobs won't be, of course, but Warren Buffett, I don't know if people know him, he said that recessions were a natural method of removing companies that would be removed anyway. And I think we have to be quite blunt about that. Some companies fail all the time. And this is no different. This is just accelerating that. And I can't tell you if my businesses will be solvent in 6 months, just like Helen and Assim can't. So I think you've just got to be adaptable to the fact that we're all in this, as you said already, David, we're all in this territory, and failure is not something to look at as a negative at all anyway. It's...
And Helen, sorry to interrupt, Ed. Helen, from your perspective there, what would you be saying to businesses who are perhaps facing that as a possibility in these current circumstances, that possibility of failure?
I think you said at the very beginning of this, failure is a taboo word. And I think certainly in times like this, we skirt around it quite a bit, talking about positivity, talking about, let's fight the fight. But sometimes there's an inevitable that there will be sacrificed businesses during this time. And I think from my perspective, it's very much about learning from it. And coming from a university landscape, as we are for some of us, it's quite interesting how many opportunities and channels there are to retrain, upskill, to actually reevaluate where you are in your life. Certainly considering age as well. None of us on this panel are spring chickens and young entrepreneurs. I'd like to think we are, but we're not. There's a new generation coming up. Where do we sit in that? So I think it's really looking at, when we consider what failure is, sometimes a kind of a polite bow and a backing out of something isn't failure. I think it can be considered as, enjoying retirement or taking on new challenges in a different way. There's one of the things that actually I'm going to bring in at this point is there's quite a lot of chat at the moment on the webinar regarding social environment and climate environment. And, that to itself, for those of us that want to be looking to maybe not be in the business in 12 months' time, is there something we can do in the environment socially to actually impact our communities instead? So I think there's a lot of people on there at the moment talking about how can we move forward to make sure that our communities are still in the realms that it has been while we've been in lockdown, where our birds have come back, where the ozone layer has
Helen, can I take that point a little bit further? Because I think I really want to acknowledge the climate issue, and I think it's important that we do so, because it's so beautiful to go out into the park and smell the trees and the flowers and the grass. And I've actually smelled car fumes. I never noticed them ever in my life, but now I actually smell them as a separate smell signature, and it's really nice to occasionally smell them. And I really hope that we can all think of ourselves in a different way, that we have managed to survive with less. Good people, we are a capitalist country, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I'm part of that. But guess what? We have not needed all those amazing things that we thought we needed. I have 2 Priuses outside, and one of them is no longer insured, and I haven't driven it since this lockdown started. But what I have done is I've purchased a bike. I bought a Brompton. I bought an English handmade bicycle, because I wanted to cycle more. And I'm going to use that as my commuter bike. I'm going to go shopping with it. I'm going to go out with it. We go out with my children. My wife takes the car, and I cycle there. And hopefully, they'll all get the habit as well.
Have you got a basket on the front?
I've just ordered a bag, and it's on its way today. I'm so excited by it, actually, because when I've got my bag, I'm going to go shopping with it, and I'm going to trundle around town into Sainsbury's or Tesco or Lidl, and I'm going to do my shopping with it. But look, climate change is really real, and the government, business, corporates have made excuses for doing something, and those excuses have now disappeared because they've all done less. Some of them have actually done less because they're not actually doing very much, but they've worked in a different way. They're working from home. Their staff are working from home, no longer commuted. They're still churning profits out. Staff are still remaining relatively productive. So do they need to come back? No, they don't.
I just sort of jumped in there before you'd finished talking. So we were on the theme of environment anyway. There was there anything that you hadn't said that you'd wanted to add before we moved to Assim?
No, I just want to acknowledge the fact that we are living in a lower carbon footprint environment right now, which many leaders thought was not possible, but we have actually proved it's possible. We're also living in a world where Black Lives Matter finally has got the space it deserves. And I just want to acknowledge that. And I hope that, climate and race are 2 things that we actually, go forward and don't look back and don't try and reverse, because we've got to make improvements for our society.
Sorry, Helen, did you want to add from where we left off before Assim came in there?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that, as Assim quite rightly said, that the agenda's been out there for a very, very long time, but there's always been an excuse. Now, I'm in an industry that tourism is the whole picture, and we've got airlines and industries that are not actually on their knees, that are already the sacrificial lamb in this at the moment. And although I absolutely want the carbon footprint to remain as we are, as Assim said, and Keele University at the moment is 3rd in the country to get the Green Award, the highest Green Award that we can get. So Keele, on a general basis, is absolutely leading and charging the way in that. But I think we've also got to be very mindful that for mindset purposes for this particular webinar, people still do want to travel. People still do want to be able to go on holiday. People still do want to take aeroplanes, get in cars and drive. But I think it will get to a point where we peak, because it won't be as much as it used to be, because people are working from home, so won't need to be getting into the cars. But I think there will be an increase. Definitely, it's not going to remain exactly as it is. I do have a concern for it, but in actual fact, we're doing everything we can in places like Keele on the conferencing side to actually keep that environmental impact and the carbon footprint as low as we can. And those are the things that are actually going to be really important to customers as well, because you're quite right to see the mental state or the mindset that people or consumers are in at the moment is that they want to be socially responsible. And you're quite right. material things have kind of gone off the agenda a bit. And it is about well-being. It is about what we can do and survive on without having to have that huge carbon footprint. So, yeah, I agree with what Assim was saying, but I do think it will start to peak again.
Ed, I'm just dipping into the emails now because I'm conscious that we're tight or close to time. So if I pick up from the emails that have come in terms of mindset, how does one factor into mindset the climate change emergency, the green recovery? How does one factor in mindset?
I love this question.
And also, sorry, Ed, and also, as Assim mentioned there, the equality and diversity agenda. How does one factor that in to mindset as we come out of the other side of this? Because again, it's a hugely important agenda there. So what do we need to do differently?
Well, again, I mean, I appreciate some people listening to this, maybe 21, they may be looking to set a company up. I mean, the mindset of a 21-year-old now is very different to the old farts on this webinar, but it's that ambition for change, and personal change is the most important thing in your life. So you can get frustrated about governments not doing this, about I'm unhappy that's what's happening in the US. I'm unhappy about Chinese coal production. Why don't more people, you can get bent out of shape about everything, but the power that you have is that you can change your activities and you can do stuff, not just talk about it. Everyone likes to post stuff on social media about how wrong everything is. If you've got a business, do stuff, change. It's called social value, and the Chamber of Commerce have got a forum there. Don't just wish that, don't be bent out, don't be frustrated by things not happening. The only control you've got is to make meaningful change to your business. We did the small thing, we put recyclable cups in our cafe. It gave me more satisfaction than the fact we may have made a few £100 that day. And I think that's the way to look at your life, is that, yes, of course, social value, equality. I've been debating with some friends about the feminist agendas at the moment. We can talk about this stuff all day long. You've got to take the power that you've got, the control that you've got over a business, your friends, the forums that you're involved with, and actually make change yourself. And Gandhi said it very well, be the change you want to see in the world. And that, again, it sounds a bit dramatic, but that is simply, you will get power back, and you will become less frustrated with the world by doing the things at a local level, rather than expecting other people like the Chinese to stop burning coal, which is the main contributor of carbon in the world. So we all need to do our bit, and companies are massively responsible for equality and environment. And people, frankly, should be ashamed of themselves if they're not thinking about that very seriously, personally, and from a business perspective.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ed. And Helen, anything to add to what Ed said there?
I think the events industry, it's something that our customers specifically have been asking for quite a long time. We have to tick the box on CSR, and we've made huge steps in trying to make sure that we do locally sourced food and catering, things like that, but also on an environment point of view, we've always tried to make sure that we do things as ecologically as possible, water saving facilities, and even the technology that we're talking about, and how that we can actually do this so that people don't need to travel. So, but the other part of it, which I'd like to bring into the conversation quite quickly here, because I know we're running short on time, is very much about the revenue streams that we're talking about here. Because to do things in a certain way and bringing tech online, and we're talking about free webinars, there's many people out there that are struggling, because actually a lot of the stuff that they're actually pushing out is all about being free. But what we should be concerned about is the revenue streams. So the events industry, if we're social distancing at 2 meters, we're going down in people attending events in some areas to 75% less. So where does the other revenue streams come from? So I think it's about being creative about what you're doing, but you still have to be mindful that we're all in a circular business. We're all here in business to earn money. There is no two ways about that. And I think it's very important that we keep all our options open, keep sustainability on our agenda, Absolutely. Diversity always at the forefront. But I think fortunately for most of us here, we need to know that we're in business 12 months from now, 18 months from now, 2 years from now. We need to be future proofing to make sure that those emerging markets where we can actually gain revenue, we still start being creative, still keep forging forward to make sure that we're still here.
Really useful, and I'll come to Asim's closing comments if I may, Assim, and by all means go back and add to what you were saying before, and then Ed, I'll come to you last if that's okay, and then I'll bring us home with the close after that. So, Assim.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating conversation. I think that the takeaway for me is communicate like hell. Be really focused on who you are, on what you want to do in life. And use this time to actually figure out what you want in life, because you're never going to get this again. We never want this pandemic again. Second wave, I hope it never happens, but if it does, it will be different. Use this time to figure out who you are, why you're on the planet, and get yourself in line with being your authentic self.
And Ed? Sorry, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, Assim, I'd hug you now if I was sitting next to you. I mean, it's exactly right. People don't have to do anything, but I would really suggest, if you're struggling with feeling a bit on the outside, if you're anxious, if you're worrying about your business, if you're a young person worried about carbon or equality, reach out to people, take control of the things that you can. You'll find that when you have the conversations with your employer or your staff, or indeed you're feeling a bit lost, just talk. Use the resources that the Chamber, that Keele, that seek help, seek advice, seek mentors, ask for help, and you'll be amazed actually at the doors that open. But you've got to do it yourself. Nobody's going to just give you a contract. Nobody's just going to give you it. If you're working for yourself, and even if you're an employee, you should be doing everything every day to add value to that business. And then hopefully you'll be one of those people that doesn't get let go because you're adaptable. So we're all in it together, really. And I would just leave you with that sort of just ask for help, talk.
And Helen, a final word from yourself, if you will.
I think the final word for me is really about listening to your teams, listening to your colleagues, listening to your customers, and understanding. And when you ask, are you okay? In this time at the moment, we all mean it. How are you? Be kind, but be positive, because I do think there is a lot of opportunity to come during and after this, and stay motivated, but completely, as both Assim and Ed and yourself, David, have said, I think it really is about being open, being transparent, listening, understanding, and most of all, please, everyone, be kind.
Amen.
And thank you all. Thank you all. So yes, to all the guests today, thanks to Helen Cuddy, partner to Keele University Conference and Events with Helen. Assim Ishaque, founder of the Entrepreneurs Trust. Assim.
Thank you very much.
Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce representative and also co-owner of Clip and Climb Stoke, Ed Bassett. Thanks, Ed. Thanks too to the Hickson Group for hosting the platform today, and a big thank you to the audience today for their questions. Loads and loads of questions. We couldn't get anywhere near all of them, but thank you so much for that. I did try, and Helen's tried to sort of blend those in, and thanks for those interactions on the chat as well. The conversation does continue. We're carrying on Twitter and on LinkedIn using the hashtag Keele Talks Business. And looking forward, we've got more webinars coming up later this month. I'd like to just ask you to keep an eye out as we promote them. The next one's on the 17th of June, and it's called No Time to Waste, which is resources for climate change for a climate change emergency on a post-pandemic planet. So a nice little sort of segue that we've provided there to that, I think. And in finishing today, I'd like to encourage everyone who hasn't already done so to sign up to the Keele Business Gateway mailing list. And this can be done by the Keele Business Gateway site or via the email that attendees will receive shortly. And Ed, do you want a final word from the Chamber there?
Yeah, I was just going to say on behalf of the Chamber and all the panel speakers here, I mean, if people are interested in talking to us, certainly if they can find us on LinkedIn, reach out, ask us a question. You know, we'll see if we can point you in the right directions with contacts or coaching or ideas. I mean, I'm sure I speak for the other members here in saying that. So do reach out. The Chamber, I mean, give the membership people a call, have a chat to them about what it means to become a member. Or contact me and I'll put you in the right direction.
Thanks, Ed. And thanks, everybody. And yeah, thanks, everybody out there, and stay safe. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.